I'm Matthew Amster. I'm a professor in the anthropology department here, and I'm sitting here with three of our seniors, Anthony Wagner, Joe Recupero, and Aiden Egglin, and all three of them have applied for Fulbright scholarships. They've also spent some time abroad and are all working on honors thesis in anthropology. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your time abroad?
Yeah, I've gotten to go a lot of places in the 4 years here at Gettysburg, but last fall I studied abroad in Durban, South Africa, where I studied social and political transformation in post-apartheid South Africa, and then I went back this summer to do research for an honors thesis, and I taught English for 3 weeks after that in Jiangsu Province, China.
So my study abroad kind of started after my first year here at Gettysburg. I got the opportunity to spend a month in Costa Rica with Professor Pete Brocious, studying sustainable surf tourism and ecology in Costa Rica, and then from there I went a little more rustic and studied abroad in Mongolia for a full semester, studying tourism and its effects on the Mongolian economy. And then I got to travel to Russia and China as well during that trip. And now I will be able to go back to Costa Rica over winter break to continue conducting research on sport and sexuality in the Costa Rican context.
So this last fall, I spent time studying abroad in Salamanca, Spain, where I lived in a homestay and took classes in anthropology and computer science and Spanish. Had the opportunity to study at a few different places in Europe as well. Spent a little bit of time in Portugal and Germany. And then this last summer, I actually spent teaching English in Nicaragua, Leon, Nicaragua, as a Heston Summer Fellow through the Center for Public Service. So that was a really positive experience as well for me.
So perhaps you could all tell me a little bit about your anthropology honors thesis plans.
My honors thesis is exploring how small community-based NGOs are filling in the gaps that exist in the education system in South Africa. And to work with this honors thesis, I went back to South Africa after studying abroad there. I went back this summer, and I did a practicum with an NGO, a small community-based NGO, and did interviews with teachers and principals and NGO staff that I'll use in the honors thesis.
So for my honors thesis, I've been spending time at the Adams County Courthouse studying how officials in position of power craft their identity with regard to the amount of power that they can have over normal people's lives. So that kind of came to me when last year there's a professor from Princeton named Dr. Carol Greenhouse who came, and her specialty is the ethnography of law. So that was the main motivation, I guess, for me to decide to study that. And I was also just interested in the way that law and culture and anthropology intersected.
So I am an anthropology and political science major, so I like to kind of mesh the two fields together. Right now, my honors thesis work is actually drawing back on my research in Costa Rica, studying the effects of emerging sexualities in Costa Rica and the way they play into sports culture. So looking at machismo culture in Costa Rica and how LGBTQA individuals re-entering the realm of surfing is challenging those standards of masculinity.
So Anthony, tell me a little bit about your Fulbright proposal.
So for my Fulbright proposal, I applied for an English teaching assistantship in the Republic of Macedonia, a place I had already been a little bit. And for that English teaching assistantship, the Fulbrighters are usually positioned at a collegiate level where they're assisting a professor who teaches English in the classroom. I thought that would be the level that I wanted to teach at. And I also proposed doing a few projects that related to my interest in both anthropology and political science. For anthropology, given my interest in the archaeology of Macedonia, I wrote that I would like to work with my students in the classroom and take them on field trips to some of Macedonia's most important archaeological sites and have them reflect on these visits by writing a book in English about why these archaeological sites need to be preserved for future generations, something that the Republic of Macedonia is really struggling with right now. And I also proposed kind of the political science-y side of things, that I would want to work with an NGO that works with immigrants. Macedonia is at the forefront of the immigration crisis in Europe right now, and that I would want to use interviews and research from that experience for a master's thesis in anthropology when I return to the States. 2 summers ago, I was working on an archaeological project in Macedonia, and I went to Greece for a few days, and while there, at the train station waiting to come back, I saw some refugees being pulled from one of the rail cars that I was about to get on. And that kind of sparked an interest in studying that group of people as they move from Syria and Iraq to Western Europe and the United States. So that's one of the reasons why I put in my Fulbright that I would want to work with people in those situations while I was there.
So for my Fulbright proposal, I decided to combine my two majors, anthropology and computer science, to study the way that youths of a particular ethnic group called the Shipibo make use of the internet or cell phones or the radio in ways that may or may not reinforce their traditional ethnic identity.
So my Fulbright application is for an English teaching assistantship in Estonia, and I specifically chose Estonia because for my graduate school work I hope to study former Russian or former Soviet countries and the way Russian minorities are treated within those countries. So I think getting experience in Estonia would give me a good foothold. Plus I've always been interested in a country that kind of sits on the brink of the East and the West, so I think Estonia was the perfect place to start.
Tell me about the experience of applying for the Fulbright.
It's been a really positive experience applying for the Fulbright, being that I've worked with professional grant writers and members of the faculty on some of the same grants that they actually apply for. And whether or not I get it, I think that this has helped me and will help me on applications for applying for graduate school or whatever else comes down the road.
I think applying for the Fulbright has been an extremely positive experience. It's helped me both with grad school applications, it's taught me to explore my interests a little further, and it's given me kind of my next step on the road towards my eventual career, hopefully as a professor of anthropology.
The process was very satisfying, and like Anthony was saying, I think there's definitely benefits even if regardless of the outcome. Just having done it, having worked through, having had like a long project to work through for a couple months at a time, and to have the commitment to work through that for, from April until October is definitely something that I think there are benefits for regardless of the outcome.